This story contains themes of racism and discrimination. It is shared to expose injustice and does not promote hate. The man's voice cut through the diner with a sharp, poisonous tone. People like you are everywhere now. This isn't where you belong. His words were heavy with contempt, designed to humiliate rather than communicate. A moment later, his hand lashed out, striking the man standing beside his young daughter. The sound was dry and sudden, echoing louder than it should have in such a crowded place. For a brief second, time itself seemed to pause. No one stood up, no one spoke. Plates remained untouched, eyes stayed lowered, and silence became a form of agreement. Only later would the man who struck him notice the faded tattoo on the victim's forearm, a detail he would come to regret noticing at all. The station diner was full that afternoon, humming with casual conversations and the dull clatter of cutlery. By the window sat Samuel Carter, a quiet man with graying temples and steady hands. And his 8-year-old daughter, Elena. She was swinging her legs gently, focused on her fries, unaware of how quickly safety could disappear. Samuel watched her the way fathers do, when they understand the world better than their children ever should. His calm was not weakness. It was discipline learned over a lifetime. When the door burst open earlier, the air had already shifted. The man who entered carried himself with loud confidence, the kind that fed on attention. He scanned the room until his gaze landed on Samuel and Elena. His comments followed, careless and cruel, aimed not just at Samuel but at everyone watching, daring them to disagree. No one did. Some pretended not to hear. Others stared into their cups as if coffee could erase discomfort. Samuel kept eating, his movements controlled. Elena sensed something was wrong and whispered his name. He answered softly, telling her to keep eating, to focus on what was in front of her. The man drew closer, leaning in. Invading their space, he spoke about places and rules, about who belonged and who did not, as if the diner were his territory. Samuel asked him politely and clearly to leave them alone. The request was simple, almost reasonable. It was also ignored. The room seemed to shrink as tension grew. Voices from other tables joined in, muttered comments that excused the cruelty. Instead of stopping it, Elena's fingers tightened around her father's sleeve. Samuel took a breath, stood up slowly, and placed himself between his daughter and the man. He did not threaten. He did not raise his voice. He only stated a boundary, reminding the man that his child was present and that the conversation was over. That restraint was mistaken for submission. The man stepped closer, smiling, encouraged by the silence around him. When Elena whimpered, he snapped at her. And in that moment something shifted in Samuel's eyes. He spoke firmly, telling the man never to address his daughter again. The response came without warning. A sudden strike, a sharp sound. Elena screamed and pressed herself against her father. Samuel did not fall, he did not retaliate. He stood still, absorbing the moment as if cataloging it. He touched his cheek slowly, his expression unreadable. Around them, excuses filled the space where conscience should have been. The man who struck him breathed heavily, convinced he had proven something. He glanced down and noticed the tattoo on Samuel's arm, bold and unmistakable, and felt a flicker of unease he could not explain. Samuel wrapped an arm around Elena, shielding her, his posture calm but unyielding. The diner returned to its noise, pretending nothing irreversible had just happened. And as Samuel looked down at his trembling daughter, the weight of what came next hung in the air unresolved, waiting to unfold beyond that room. Samuel looked down at Elena, then back at Hector. His expression had changed. It was no longer anger or visible emotion, but something colder, deeper, and unmistakably final. His eyes were calm in a way that unsettled everyone who noticed, as if Hector had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Slowly, Samuel reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Every movement was measured, deliberate, carrying the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to control. Hector's loud presence suddenly felt childish by comparison. "Who are you calling now?" Hector sneered, forcing a laugh that lacked conviction. "You think calling someone changes anything? Nobody here saw a crime." A man nearby nodded weakly, muttering that it had only been a disagreement. Samuel didn't respond. He dialed a short number, waited, and spoke briefly into the phone, his voice low and steady. He ended the call and returned the device to his pocket. The room seemed to hold its breath. Something invisible but powerful shifted, and even those pretending not to watch could feel it. Hector crossed his arms, masking his unease with volume. "You think one call makes you important?" He said, "Sit down." Samuel took one step forward. "I have spent many years correcting problems created by men who mistake noise for authority," he said quietly. "Men who believe silence means permission." Hector swallowed and glanced around, suddenly aware of how few eyes supported him. "You don't know anything about me," he snapped. "I know enough." Samuel replied. The distant sound of engines cut through the diner's low hum, Tires screeched, doors slammed, and controlled footsteps approached. Conversations died mid-sentence. Hector frowned, but Samuel remained still, already aware of what was coming. The doors opened with calm certainty. 3 men entered dressed plainly, their presence commanding immediate attention. They did not resemble local officers, yet authority followed them like a shadow. The room fell silent. The first man stopped when he saw Samuel. His gaze dropped briefly to Samuel's forearm, where a faded tattoo rested. His posture changed instantly. "Mr. Carter," he said respectfully. Hector stiffened. "What is this?" The second man surveyed the room, noting Samuel's bruised cheek, the trembling child, and the collective avoidance of responsibility. "This situation is clear," he said evenly. "And it should not have happened." Samuel raised a hand. "Not here." He said, "Not in front of my daughter." The response was immediate. One of the men turned toward Hector. "Was it you? I didn't do anything serious." Hector said quickly it was a misunderstanding. No one argued. Samuel knelt beside Elena and spoke softly. "You're safe," he told her. She nodded, sensing the shift, the calm certainty she had always trusted. As Samuel stood, his sleeves slid back, revealing the tattoo more clearly. A few patrons recognized it and felt the color drain from their faces. "There are actions," Samuel said quietly, "that carry consequences long after the moment passes." Hector stepped back. "This is being blown out of proportion," he insisted. One of the men answered calmly. "You don't decide that." Samuel placed himself between Elena and the room. "My daughter leaves now." No one objected. Helena was guided outside before she left. She turned and saw her father standing tall, composed. Untouched by chaos, her fear faded once the door closed. The atmosphere changed completely. "Full name," one man said to Hector. "Why?" "Because everything here has been documented," another replied, and reviewed. Hector's confidence collapsed. "You didn't just cross a personal boundary. The man continued. "You triggered a legal process." "You don't understand." Samuel stepped closer, his voice calm but absolute. "What happened today will follow proper channels." He said, "Where are you taking me?" Hector asked. Samuel didn't answer. He simply turned away. Later that evening, the diner closed early. No official statements were released. No footage surfaced publicly. Nothing had occurred privately. Records were reviewed, accounts examined, past complaints quietly resurfaced. Within days, Hector Morales was suspended pending investigation. Financial audits revealed long-ignored violations. Reports once dismissed were reconsidered. Procedures moved forward without noise or spectacle. Months passed. A legal process unfolded beyond public view. Decisions were made, responsibilities assigned, and outcomes finalized. Samuel never returned to the diner. Years later, Elena barely remembered the details, but she remembered her father's voice as they walked away that day. "True justice," he told her, "doesn't announce itself, it simply arrives.